okay, maybe it's just me, but I felt like the marketing and the campaigning for this film, including the TV commercials and the trailers themselves, were absolutely awful. I mean, these were some of the most unappealing, unfunny, cringy trailers I've possibly seen in a really long time. Like nothing about these trailers made me want to even remotely go see this film. Then the Rotten Tomatoes score came out, and I was honestly not even encouraged. I was very confused because, like I said, nothing about these trailers were appealing whatsoever. So I was trying to figure out how people are enjoying themselves in this film. Then I come to find out that the people that directed this film directed one of my top 5 favorite comedies of all time, Game Night. And then I went to go see the film, and I walked out, and everything made sense. Guys, I see why these people are going crazy over this movie, man. This is a lot of fun. I mean, this is the literal definition of a summer blockbuster that I was not expecting to see in March. I mean, I don't even know what I was expecting to see when I walked into this theater, but let me explain something to you. Coming out, I might have to go start playing some Dungeons and Dragons. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, guys, girls, and the people who join the Hellfire Club, this is Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Amongst Thieves. Hey guys, it's your guy in the chair here, and look, this is my review for Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Amongst Thieves, starring Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, Hugh Grant, and Sophia Lillis, and was directed by John Francis Daly and Jonathan Goldstein. And our plot, as best as I can describe, because I am not the biggest D&D guy. I'm honestly not a D&D guy at all. I really only know of this game through televisions and movies that I watch that refer to this game. But other than that, no, I'm not the biggest Dungeons and Dragons guy. So I'm going to do my best to describe the plot. Look, as far as I'm concerned, this is Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez attempting to get their revenge, or essentially get their lick back, against Hugh Grant and this witch who betrayed them and got them locked up. And essentially he took his daughter, and now, Chris Pine sets out on this adventure to right all his wrongs and just go on one of the most grand adventures possible. Look, I'm so sorry if that is a shitty way to describe this movie, but that's the best way I can do it, because there's a whole lot that's going. It's a lot of wizardry and just magic and a lot of Dungeons and Dragons and things like that. There's a lot of fun. There's a lot of craziness going on, but that's the best way I can describe this plot. So let's just get into what I liked about the film. Okay, so look, simply put, this movie is full of fantastic surprises for you. I mean surprises as far as, look, if you've never played the Dungeons and Dragons games or never been introduced to that world whatsoever, you feel like you are thrown into a completely brand new universe here, one that you've never been introduced to, with creatures you've never seen before, with powers unlike anything you've ever seen before. I mean, I was absolutely just wowed by everything that this movie had to offer, especially in like the first maybe like 10 to 15 minutes, because I mean, it was just like, I never had been so unfamiliar with a world, like with a fantasy world before. Like I'm really big into like Lord of the Rings and things like that, so I'm normally like up to date on like what these creatures' names are and stuff, but it just felt so weird to be thrown into something that I've never experienced before, but it was just so much fun. I mean, they make sure that whether you're a big fan of this game or whether you're just a big fan of movies, that there's something for everybody in here. I mean, I absolutely adored everything. Well, mostly everything, but I adored everything that this film had to offer as far as a comedic standpoint, action standpoint, I mean, directorial standpoint. Like, these people went absolute nuts for this film. They made sure that they absolutely had an objective to accomplish, and that was to impress all of us about Dungeons and Dragons. They honestly, I believe that their mission was that they set out to accomplish was to prove us all wrong, that Dungeons and Dragons can actually be really cool, because that's what I walked away from this movie saying, that I absolutely will possibly be trying this game out, because this thing seems freaking incredible, man. I mean, look, one of the biggest things I was worried about walking into this film was how the comedy was going to fit into all this, because while people were saying that this movie was hilarious, like I said, I didn't find any of the trailers funny whatsoever. I found the comedy to be very cringy and just not funny. It just was very bland, and I really was trying to figure out how they were going to put this comedy into the film and make it actually work. And then, like I said, I found out that the people that created this film created one of my favorite comedies ever, And the comedy works. It works very well. I mean, this movie is beyond funny. It's just outright hilarious. I mean, the beginning of this film sets the tone so perfectly. It sets up the comedic tone that follows the rest of the film. It sets up the adventurous tone that follows the rest of the film. And honestly, one thing that truly shocked me about this movie is how action-packed it is. And not just like essentially just all the dragons and the magic and the mythical stuff. I'm talking about the actual like hand-to-hand combat, actual fight scenes, like where they actually have to use their fists and swords and things like that. They're actually dueling with different weapons. It's absolutely phenomenal. I don't know if Dungeons and Dragons saw a clip of John Wick and said we actually have to go a lot harder than we did before, but I think John Wick is going to set a very good precedent for action movies here on out, because the Dungeons and Dragons actually surprisingly delivered great action in this film, like absolutely phenomenal action. I think this guy's name is Reggae Jean Page, and honestly, I probably said that so bad. It's the guy from Bridgerton. I don't even watch that show, but I know he's from there. He is the standout in this film. I mean, one of the best characters I've ever seen on screen as far as a mythical fantasy standpoint goes. I mean, this dude was an absolute badass. I loved everything about this character. I mean, he is so down to earth. He's so humble. I loved his interaction with Chris Pine and all the other characters. I love how his lines were delivered. They were very humorous, even though he's not a very humorous person. He's a very straightforward person. I loved his action sequences when he was fighting these assassins. I mean, oh my gosh, man, he did such a good job. Another thing came as a complete surprise. Michelle Rodriguez. I completely forgot, because she's been in these Fast and Furious movies for so long, you honestly forget that Michelle Rodriguez can do more than just yell "Dom!" for 2 hours or however many minutes those movies go on for. But look, Michelle Rodriguez kicks absolute ass in this movie, and she makes herself a very great standout as well. I mean, she kicks major ass in the film. Honestly, she's very beefed up too. Like she's really brawny in this movie, man. I mean, oh my god, like you thought Michelle Rodriguez was scary before? Nah, she was like huge in this. She was like stocky. Like Michelle Rodriguez was throwing niggas in this movie, and she was taking some crazy hits too. I absolutely, like I said, the action in this movie is jaw-droppingly good. Like it's absolutely insane, man. And honestly, on top of that, look, Sophia Lillis, she played in It and I think with the Hansel and Gretel movie before. She did a phenomenal job as well. She was a big standout in the film. She played this character that could shapeshift into a bunch of different animals, and I have to give major credit to the directors in this movie, because they have this one scene where the camera's kind of like following her escaping this castle, and she's shapeshifting into different animals, and the camera angles and just the way that scene is being filmed, absolutely beautiful. It's incredible. Like seriously, like there are a lot of pleasant surprises in this film. Like there are things that I didn't expect this movie to have that it had. There are things that this movie did I didn't expect it to do, and there are just lengths that this movie took that I didn't expect to appreciate, but I do, and I just absolutely adored it. I had so much fun. I'm literally sitting here watching this movie and I'm like, this is a summer blockbuster film that I don't think any of us were expecting. This is like a big major blockbuster film. This has all those feels to it, and I absolutely adored that. Chris Pine, I didn't know how Chris Pine was going to do after coming off of Don't Worry Darling, but as far as I'm concerned, I guess as long as he's away from Olivia Wilde and Harry Styles, that man can do no wrong, because Chris Pine is the same charming, charismatic, wonderful actor that I've seen in all the other previous films that doesn't include Don't Worry Darling. Chris Pine is just He's amazing in this film, man. I mean, I absolutely adored all of the performances in this film, man. I mean, I had so much fun with the action. I mean, personally, if I had to criticize one thing, it's more so the fact that like I said, I'm not necessarily a Dungeons and Dragons person, so the movie was definitely referencing a lot of stuff that I felt like I was missing, and that's not to the movie's fault at all. Like I said, I just personally felt like there was just many things referenced to the game that I was just completely missing. It was going over my head, and that's going to happen if you're not a fan of the game. So that kind of just took me out of my experience in the film a little bit, because I don't necessarily like to feel like I'm just missing like complete references, or I feel like I'm missing something that the film is trying to present to me. But like I said, they do a great job of balancing everything that fans about this game love and people who who just don't know anything about this at all, they do a great job in balancing it and making the entire film just fun for everybody. I mean, like I said, it's outright hilarious. The acting performances are amazing. The action sequences are incredible. The dragons are great. The magic is fun. And like I said, as far as the villains go in this movie, Hugh Grant does a great job as the villain. Hugh Grant is the reason I'm so enticed into the story as much as I am. Like, I really want to see Hugh Grant get justice done to him, because he's such a maniacal bastard in this movie. He does a really good job at just making me hate him and want to see him go down. So that's why I was so invested. I didn't expect to be so invested in the story. Now, as far as the witch goes, like I said, this is kind of where I get into territory to where I don't necessarily know what I'm speaking on, as far as like I like there was this one scene where the witch is serving somebody else, like a master higher than her. I thought he was going to be the main villain, or we were going to get a glimpse of him, but that never happened. Like I said, I don't necessarily know if that was supposed to. I thought that's where the movie was headed, in that direction, but it didn't go there. I can't necessarily fault it for that, because I don't even know if that character is supposed to show up. But honestly, one thing I did not expect to be feeling when I left this movie is that I want to see a lot more of these. The Bridgerton guy, I need him to have like 8 spinoffs. I was so upset. I was so upset when his character left us in the film. Like he went off to do his own thing, or essentially he let them continue the journey on their own. But like, once the character, anytime the Bridgerton guy's in this film, I'm absolutely just jaw-droppingly, I have my jaw on the floor and I'm just absolutely going batshit crazy, because this dude is such an amazing talent. I was not expecting to love his character that much. I was absolutely devastated when he left us on screen. When he left Chris Pine and them, like when his character went off to do his own thing at a certain point in the film, I was just so upset, because I was like, dude, I need you to be in the rest of this movie. You were absolutely badass. And honestly, everybody else holds their own. I love that each character, Justice Smith, he was a very good part of the film as well. I love that each character in the film gets their own moment to shine. Everybody is just having so much fun. And this film doesn't even take itself too seriously, to the point where they're just making just cringy, a lot of cringy shit going on. This movie it has enough balance of comedy and action to just be the perfect balance of the summer blockbuster that honestly I don't think anybody's expecting out of this film, but it's all that and so much more, guys. And for all those reasons and so many more, I'm going to give Dungeons and Dragons Honor Amongst Thieves a 3.75 out of 5 stars. Alright, so Dungeons and Dragons, have you seen it? What did you think about it? Be sure to comment down below your thoughts on the film. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff and so much more, guys. Look, I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. This is your guy in the chair. More content coming to you soon.